The alarms woke Susan Wells from a restless sleep. Red lights flashed across her small quarters aboard the International Space Station. She grabbed her uniform and was dressed before the emergency broadcast finished its first cycle. All personnel, to stations. Unknown objects approaching Earth orbit. This is not a drill. Susan rushed through the station's narrow corridors, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. Other crew members moved with the same urgency, their faces tight with worry. When she reached the command center, the large viewing screen showed what had triggered the alarms. 7 massive ships, each shaped like smooth black diamonds, had entered Earth orbit. They had appeared without warning, without being detected by any of Earth's early warning systems. They simply arrived. Status report, Susan demanded as she took her position as captain of the station. They're not responding to hails on any frequency, said Paul Rogers, the communications officer. His fingers moved quickly across his control panel. We're broadcasting on all known channels. What about their weapons? Susan asked. Lisa Brown, the tactical officer, shook her head. We can't tell. Our scans can't penetrate their hulls. Susan looked at the strange ships. They were positioned in a perfect formation, evenly spaced around Earth's equator. They weren't moving. They weren't attacking. They were just waiting. Get me a direct line to Earth Defense Command, Susan ordered. Before Paul could establish the connection, the viewing screen changed. The image of the alien ships disappeared, replaced by a face. The creature looked almost human, but not quite. Its skin was pale blue, its eyes too large and completely black. It had no visible nose, just 2 small slits, and when it spoke, its mouth didn't move in sync with its words. People of Earth, the creature said, its voice oddly musical. I am Ambassador Krathok of the Viridian Hierarchy, representing the Galactic Council. We come with peaceful intentions. Susan didn't believe that for a second. No one with peaceful intentions showed up unannounced with 7 warships. We have been observing your planet for some time, Krathok continued. Your species has reached a critical point in its development. The Council has determined that humanity requires guidance to avoid the catastrophic mistakes made by other young species. Susan felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't a greeting. It was a declaration. Earth will be placed under the protection of the Galactic Council. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is the natural order of the galaxy. Advanced species guide developing ones. Your compliance will ensure your survival. The screen went black, then returned to the view of the alien ships. Now small craft were detaching from the larger vessels, heading toward Earth. Get me Earth Defense Command now, Susan shouted. Within minutes, she was connected to General Alan Martinez at EDC headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. We're seeing the same broadcast, Captain Wells, Martinez said, his face grim on the small communication screen. Similar crafts are landing in major cities across the globe. World leaders are being contacted. What are our orders, sir? Susan asked. Martinez looked away for a moment, speaking to someone off screen. When he turned back, his expression had changed. There was something in his eyes, something that looked like hope. Official orders are to stand down, do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. The World Security Council is arranging to meet with these visitors. Susan frowned. Sir, with all due respect, we can't just surrender. Martinez leaned closer to the screen and lowered his voice. We're not surrendering, Captain. We're buying time. Report to Colorado Base Alpha as soon as possible. Classified briefing, security level Omega. The connection ended abruptly. 48 hours later, Susan sat in a windowless room 1,000 feet below the surface. Around the table were 11 others, military leaders, scientists, and government officials from around the world. General Martinez stood at the head of the table. What we're about to discuss never leaves this room. Martinez began. As far as the Galactic Council is concerned, Earth has accepted their protection. They believe we are a primitive species that poses no threat. He pressed a button and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed technical schematics that Susan didn't recognize. For the past 15 years, A secret international project has been developing technologies that the rest of the world doesn't know exist. Faster than light drives, energy weapons, shields that can withstand nuclear blasts. We've built ships that no radar can detect, hidden in underwater bases and lunar caves. The people around the table murmured in surprise. Susan could hardly believe what she was hearing. A woman stood up. She wore a simple lab coat with the name Dr. Olivia Grant on the badge. The alien technology we've observed so far is advanced, but not as advanced as they want us to believe, Dr. Grant said. Their main advantage is that they've had it longer. The principles behind their tech are similar to what we've developed, independently. General Martinez nodded. Which brings us to why you're all here. Each of you has been selected for Operation Hornet's Nest. The hologram changed to show what looked like a military plan. Susan recognized military objectives, timetables, and tactical formations. The Galactic Council believes we are accepting their rule, Martinez continued. We will play along. We will let them think we are the primitive, easily controlled species they expect. Meanwhile, we will study them, learn their weaknesses, place our people in positions where they can gather intelligence. He looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. Make no mistake, this is not a resistance. This is not a rebellion. This is a counterattack in the making. The council came expecting to find sheep. They will discover they have walked into a nest of hornets. Susan felt her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. The aliens had arrived expecting an easy conquest. They had no idea what humanity was capable of when threatened. Captain Wells, Martinez said, turning to her. You'll be our eyes on their orbital command station. They're requesting Earth representatives for cultural exchange. You're going to give them exactly what they expect. An eager, somewhat naive human officer, grateful for their advanced wisdom. Susan nodded. She understood her role now. She would smile. She would appear cooperative. She would learn everything she could. And when the time came, she would help humanity strike back. Any questions? Martinez asked. No one spoke. They all understood what was at stake. Then we begin now. Earth's future depends on our success. 6 months passed since the Galactic Council arrived. Their ships now orbited Earth like artificial moons. They had built bases on Earth, the Moon, and Mars. Humans went about their daily lives under the watchful eyes of their new protectors. Susan. Wells floated through the corridors of the hegemony of light, the Council's main orbital station. She wore the blue and silver uniform given to all human representatives. The aliens called it an honor. Susan called it a collar. Representative Wells, you are requested on the observation deck, a mechanical voice announced. Susan changed direction, pushing off a wall with practiced ease. After months on the station, she moved through zero gravity, as well as any council species. Better, in fact, though she was careful not to show it. The observation deck featured a massive window that looked down on Earth. The view always made Susan's chest tighten with a mix of homesickness and determination. Ambassador Krathak stood by the window, his blue skin reflecting the blue of Earth below. Ah, Susan, the ambassador said, using her first name as he always did with humans. Council members only used full titles with species they respected. Come observe your world with me. Susan floated to his side and performed the slight bow expected of her. It's beautiful from up here, she said, playing her role. Indeed, your species is fortunate the Council arrived when it did. Our projections showed your climate crisis would have become irreversible within a decade. Krathak gestured to Earth. Already our atmospheric adjustment program has stabilized the carbon levels. Susan knew the truth. Earth had already solved its climate problems years ago, using technology developed in secret. The Council's help was unnecessary, but humanity let them believe their assistance was saving the planet. We are very grateful, Susan said, the words tasting bitter. Krathak nodded, his large black eyes blinking slowly. I am pleased to inform you that the Council's Science Division has approved your request to observe their quantum communication array. You show remarkable aptitude for a human. Susan kept her expression neutral, but inside she felt a surge of victory. This was what she had been working toward for months. The quantum array was the heart of the Council's communication network. Honored, she said. When may I begin? Tomorrow. Overseer Zuvan will guide you. You will not touch any equipment, of course, but you may observe and ask questions. Krathak turned away from the window. The Council is pleased with human progress. Many advisors doubted your species could adapt so quickly to our presence. We've always been quick learners, Susan said. Later, in her private quarters, Susan activated the device hidden in her personal items. It looked like a simple meditation stone, something the Council encouraged humans to use for spiritual balance. In reality, it was an untraceable communication device developed by Dr. Olivia Grant's team. Nightingale to nest, Susan whispered. I've gained access. General Martinez's voice came through clearly, though no sound waves traveled through the air. The device transmitted directly to the auditory center of Susan's brain. Excellent work, Captain, Martinez said. What have you learned about their security systems? They're advanced, but predictable. No redundancies. They haven't fought a real war in over 500 years. Their security is designed to impress, not to actually stop a determined attack. What about their internal divisions? Susan smiled slightly. The Council species barely tolerate each other. The Viridians think they're superior to everyone. The Axoni resent taking orders from the Viridians. The Muraski stay neutral but secretly supply both sides with information. Can we exploit these divisions? Absolutely, Susan confirmed. I've been carefully dropping hints to different Council members, suggesting that other species get preferential treatment. Small things, but they add up. Martinez's voice grew serious. We're almost ready. Jack Peterson's team has inserted backdoors into 80% of Council systems. Dr. Grant's quantum entanglement program is complete. We just need access to their communication array to implement it. I'll have access tomorrow, Susan said. How are things on Earth? Council representatives think we're adapting to their technology because we're eager students. They don't realize we're studying it to find weaknesses. Martinez paused. They've started recruiting humans who seem particularly cooperative. Lieutenant Frank Collins has been selected for their military observation program. Susan knew Frank. He was one of the best strategic thinkers in Earth's defense forces. His new position would give them insights into Council military capabilities. What about Mars base? Susan asked. Commander Eric Butler reports their security is even more lax than in Earth facilities. They're convinced humans can't survive the Martian environment without their help. They don't know about our underground bases. Susan heard voices in the corridor outside her quarters. I have to go. Nightingale out. The next day, Susan followed Overseer Zuvan through the secure sections of the station. The Muraski alien moved on 6 thin legs, leading her to the communication center. His bronze-colored skin shimmered under the lights. The quantum communication array allows instantaneous contact between all Council worlds, Zuvan explained. Your scientists believed faster-than-light communication was impossible. This is why the Council must guide developing species. Susan nodded, wide-eyed with fake amazement. Earth had achieved quantum communication 15 years ago. Dr. Grant's team had improved on it since then. The communication center was surprisingly simple. A crystalline structure floated in a magnetic field, pulsing with inner light. Control panels surrounded it. The array connects to similar devices throughout Council space, Zuvan said. We hold the galaxy together with our technology. Susan studied everything carefully, memorizing the layout, identifying access points. She asked questions that made her seem curious but ignorant. Could a non-Council species ever develop such technology? She asked. Zuvan made a sound that Susan had learned was laughter. Impossible. The mathematical principles alone took the Council's best minds centuries to develop. Humans are clever for a young species, but you are thousands of years from such achievements. If only you knew, Susan thought. While Zuvan was distracted explaining the system, Susan pressed her hand against a panel, leaving behind a microscopic device. To Council sensors, it would appear as a speck of dust. To Dr. Grant's quantum entanglement program, it was a doorway. That night, Susan reported her success. Martinez informed her that similar infiltrations were happening across Council facilities. Earth's agents had been placed in key positions throughout the Council's operation. How much longer? Susan asked. 1 more month, Martinez replied. We need to be sure we can hit all their systems simultaneously. There can be no warning, no chance for them to respond. Susan looked out her small window at Earth below. For 6 months, humanity had bowed its head and said, "Thank you," to its would-be conquerors. They had learned the Council's weaknesses, studied their technology, and prepared in secret. The Council thought they were guiding a primitive species toward enlightenment. They had no idea they were dealing with a civilization that had never stopped fighting, never stopped innovating, never accepted defeat. 1 more month, Susan repeated, then we show them who really needs protection. The day began like any other on the hegemony of light. Council members moved through their duties with calm efficiency. Human representatives listened attentively to their alien mentors. Nothing seemed unusual. Susan Wells checked the time on her council-issued device, 0312 GMT, 5 minutes until everything changed. She made her way to the observation deck, where she had been summoned for a routine meeting with Ambassador Krathak. The Viridian stood with his back to the door, gazing down at Earth. "Beautiful morning, isn't it, Ambassador?" Susan said. Krathak turned. "An odd statement, Representative Wells. In space, there is no morning." "Just a human expression," Susan replied with a smile. She glanced at her device again. 0315 GMT, I wish to discuss your progress, Krathak said. "The Science Division reports you have absorbed information at an impressive rate. For a human." "Thank you," Susan said. "We try our best to learn from our betters." Krathak nodded, pleased with her response. "The Council is considering allowing humans limited access to interstellar travel within the next decade, under supervision, of course." "How generous," Susan said, her eyes fixed on her device. 0316 GMT. "It is indeed. Most species wait centuries for such privileges, but your kind has shown remarkable." 0317 GMT. "Throughout the station, throughout Earth orbit, throughout the solar system, it happened all at once. The lights flickered. The artificial gravity wavered. The viewing screens displaying Earth and space went black. Krathak's device chimed with alarm. He checked it, his large black eyes widening with confusion. "This is impossible," he said. "All systems are reporting failures." Susan felt the weight of the hidden weapon against her leg. Not yet. Not until the emergency lights came on, bathing the observation deck in red, but the regular systems didn't return. "What is happening?" Krathak demanded, turning to Susan as if she might know. Before she could answer, a Council security officer burst onto the deck. "Ambassador, we're under attack." "Attack? By whom?" Krathak asked. The officer's six-fingered hand pointed at Susan. "By them, the humans." Susan drew her weapon now, a sleek black pistol that looked nothing like the primitive firearms the Council believed humans still used. "Stay where you are," she ordered, her voice calm but firm. "This is some mistake," Krathak said, looking between Susan and the security officer. "The humans have no weapons capable of—" A massive boom shook the station. Through the observation window, Susan could see one of the Council's ships drifting powerless. Beyond it, emerging from behind Earth's moon, came a fleet of ships that had never been seen before. "Human ships! What have you done?" Krathak whispered. "We shut down your systems," Susan said. "The quantum entanglement device I planted in your communication array gave us access to everything. Your ships, your weapons, your life support." "Right. Now every Council facility in the solar system is experiencing the same thing." Another human entered the observation deck, wearing the same blue and silver uniform as Susan. Lieutenant Frank Collins held a weapon similar to Susan's, pointed at the security officer. "Captain Wells," he said, nodding to Susan. "The primary systems are under our control. Teams are moving through the station. Minimal resistance." Susan turned back to Krathak, whose blue skin had paled to a sickly gray. "You lied to us," he said. "No, Ambassador, we just didn't tell you everything, just like you didn't tell us the real reason the Council came to Earth." Krathak stiffened. "I don't know what you mean." "We know about the rare elements in Earth's crust. The ones your council needs for your quantum technology. The ones that are becoming scarce in council space. Susan stepped closer to him. Did you really think we were that naive? That we would just hand over our planet's resources because you claimed to be helping us? On Earth, Operation Hornet's Nest unfolded with precise coordination. In New York, human forces emerged from underground facilities beneath the Council's main Earth headquarters. In Beijing, Moscow, London, and a dozen other cities, similar uprisings occurred. On Mars, Commander Eric Butler led his teams from hidden bunkers beneath the red soil. They moved swiftly through the Council's main research facility. The aliens there, so certain of their technological superiority, had never considered the need for serious security measures. Most surrendered without a fight. In the lunar base, Dr. Olivia Grant personally oversaw the capture of the Council's main research center. The aliens there watched in disbelief as humans operated technology the Council thought was beyond their understanding. Back on the hegemony of light, Susan activated the station's communication system, now under human control. This is Captain Susan Wells of the Earth Defense Force. All Council personnel, this station is now under human authority. Remain where you are. Do not attempt to resist. You will not be harmed if you cooperate. She turned to Frank. Status of the fleet? Captain, Morgan reports all Council ships have been disabled. No casualties on either side. Our forces have surrounded them. Susan nodded. And the ground forces? General Martinez reports success at all Earth locations. Commander Butler has secured Mars base. Dr. Grant has the moon. We did it, Captain. The entire solar system is back in human hands. Susan looked at Krathak, who had sunk into a chair, his entire worldview crumbling before him. How? He asked. How could you have developed such technology without our knowledge? Because you underestimated us, Susan said. You saw what you expected to see. A primitive species grateful for your help. You never bothered to look deeper. She gestured to the human ships visible through the window. Those vessels use a drive system we developed 15 years ago. We hid them in underwater bases in Antarctic caverns on the far side of the moon. Your sensors never detected them because you never thought to look for them. Frank's device beeped. He checked it and smiled. General Martinez is ready to address the Council leadership. Should I put it on the main screen? Susan nodded, and the large viewing screen came to life. General Martinez stood in what had been the Council's Earth headquarters. Behind him stood Dr. Grant and Jack Peterson. Ambassador Krathak, Martinez began. As you can see, the situation has changed. Earth is no longer under Council protection. In fact, it never was. Krathak stared at the screen in silence. I'm transmitting terms for the Council's immediate withdrawal from our solar system, Martinez continued. You will be allowed to return to Council space with your people. Your ships will be returned to you once you reach the boundary of our system. And if we refuse? Krathak asked. Martinez's expression hardened. We just disabled your entire fleet without firing a shot. We took control of all your facilities in less than an hour. What do you think would happen if we decided to actually fight? The general's words hung in the air. Susan could see the reality sinking in for Krathak. The Council had never faced a species that could challenge them before. We will leave, Krathak said finally. But the Council will not forget this insult. Susan stepped forward. It's not an insult, Ambassador. It's a correction. You came here, believing you were superior beings guiding a primitive species. Now you know the truth, we're equals. Remember that when you report back to your Council. As human forces secured the station, Susan looked out at Earth below. For the first time in 6 months, she felt like she could breathe freely. The first phase of humanity's plan had succeeded perfectly, but she knew this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council controlled thousands of worlds across hundreds of star systems. They would not accept this defeat easily. Next would come the counterattack, and humanity was ready. 2 weeks after the Council's expulsion from the solar system, Earth's leaders gathered in the former Council headquarters beneath the United Nations building in New York. The room buzzed with tension as General Martinez stood to address them. The Council fleet has retreated beyond Neptune, he began, but our long-range sensors show they're not leaving the area. They're waiting. Captain Susan Wells, recently returned from the captured orbital station, studied the holographic display showing the Council ships clustered at the edge of the solar system. They're calling for reinforcements, she said. Our intelligence from the captured databases shows they have never faced this situation before. No species has ever successfully resisted Council authority. How long until their main battle fleet arrives? Asked President Steve Adams, who led the global coalition formed after the Council's arrival. Dr. Olivia Grant consulted her datapad. Based on their fastest ships and nearest major bases, 3 months at minimum. 6 months more likely. The room fell quiet as the reality sank in. Earth had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. So we have 6 months to prepare for an invasion, President Adams said. General Martinez shook his head. No, sir. We have 6 months to take the fight to them. Surprised murmurs filled the room. Explain, the president ordered. Martinez nodded to Dr. Grant, who activated a new display. A 3-dimensional map of nearby star systems appeared above the table. The Council believes we're confined to our solar system, she said. They don't know our true capabilities. The Hawking drive we developed allows our ships to travel distances that would take their fastest vessels years to cover. Susan looked at the star map with growing understanding. You want to strike Council space before their reinforcements arrive? Exactly, Martinez confirmed. Hit them where they're vulnerable, where they've never bothered to build defenses because they believed the vast distances of space protected them. Captain Dan Morgan, who commanded Earth's hidden fleet, leaned forward. My ships are ready. We've been training for this possibility for years. President Adams looked troubled. You're talking about taking an offensive action against a galactic power that controls thousands of worlds. They attacked us first, Susan reminded him. They came here under false pretenses, intending to strip our world of resources and keep us as a servant species. Jack Peterson, the cybersecurity specialist who had helped disable the Council's systems, joined the conversation. The intel we gathered from their databases proves it. They've done this to dozens of worlds. And those worlds remain under Council control, President Adams pointed out. Because none of them had our advantages, Dr. Grant said. None of them kept their technological advances secret. None of them let the Council believe they were primitive while developing weapons and ships the Council can't detect or counter. The President considered this. What exactly are you proposing? Captain Morgan brought up a new display, showing attack formations and targets. A precision strike at their primary shipyards in the Centauri Proxima system. That's where they're building the reinforcements they're calling for. If we destroy their construction capabilities, we buy ourselves years, not months. And we show them that distance won't protect them from us, Susan added. General Martinez nodded. We hit their shipyards, their command centers, their main fleet. While it's still in dock, we don't need to destroy them completely. We just need to demonstrate that we can reach them anywhere. And then, the president asked. Then we offer terms, Martinez said. Real terms, not as a subject species but as equals. The debate lasted hours. Some leaders feared escalation, others worried about the moral implications of a surprise attack. But in the end, the evidence from the Council's own databases made the decision clear. The Council had no intention of treating Earth fairly, and they would return with overwhelming force if given the chance. 3 days later, Captain Morgan stood on the bridge of the starship Defiance, Earth's most advanced vessel. Unlike the sleek decorative ships of the Council, the Defiance was built for function. Its hull was dark and angular, designed to absorb rather than reflect sensors. All ships report ready, Captain, said his first officer, Beth Rivera. Morgan looked at the view screen showing the 20 ships of his fleet. Each represented the pinnacle of human engineering, hidden from the world until now. Send to all ships. Operation Distant Thunder is go. Hawking drives engage on my mark. He paused, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. Mark. The fleet disappeared from Earth orbit. In normal space, the journey to Centauri Proxima would take years. With the Hawking drive, it took hours. The Council shipyards never saw them coming. There were no defense systems, no patrol ships, No early warning network. Why would there be? No species was supposed to be able to reach Council space without Council drives, which were carefully controlled. "We're in position," Rivera reported. "Shipyards dead ahead. No alert status detected." Morgan studied the massive structures floating in space. Partly completed warships hung suspended in scaffolding. Supply vessels moved between construction bays. It was the heart of the Council's military might. "Target their power cores and command centers," Morgan ordered. "Precision strikes only. I want their ships disabled, not destroyed." The human fleet moved into attack formation. Unlike Council vessels, which relied on energy weapons that were flashy but inefficient, Earth ships used focused electromagnetic pulses that could disable electronics without harming organic life. "All ships weapons free," Morgan commanded. The attack took less than 20 minutes. The shipyards went dark. The half-built warships drifted powerless. Council workers floated in confusion, their emergency systems keeping them alive but unable to respond or call for help. Morgan opened a channel to the Council's emergency frequencies. "Attention Council facilities. This is Captain Daniel Morgan of the Earth Defense Force. Your shipyards are under our control. Your weapons are disabled. Do not attempt to resist." There was no response at first. Then a shaky voice replied in the formal tones of a Council administrator. "This is impossible. You cannot be here. Earth vessels cannot reach Centauri Proxima." "Clearly we can," Morgan replied. "And this is just the beginning. We can reach any Council world. Remember that when you report to your leaders." Over the next week, human forces struck 4 more key Council installations. Each time they followed the same pattern: disable rather than destroy, demonstrate capability rather than inflict casualties. At the Council's central fleet base, they captured the flagship of the Council Armada before it could even raise shields. At their primary communications hub, they inserted their own message into the galactic network. "Earth is not your subject. Earth is not your resource. Earth is your equal." The Council, for the first time in its long history, faced a species it could not simply overwhelm with superior technology, a species that could strike anywhere at any time without warning. When the Defiance and its fleet returned to Earth orbit, they brought with them the captured Council flagship and its admiral. The message was clear. The balance of power had shifted. Earth was no longer fighting for survival. It was fighting for its place in a galaxy that would never again see humans as primitive or weak. 1 year passed since the Galactic Council first entered Earth's solar system. In that time, everything had changed. Susan Wells stood in the grand chamber of what had once been the Council's central meeting hall on the planet Viridian Prime. The circular room had been redesigned, its raised central platform replaced by a large round table. Around this table sat representatives from over 30 species, including humans. The final vote stands at 28 in favor, 2 opposed, 3 abstentions, announced the session leader, a tall Axoni named Trell. The motion passes. The Galactic Assembly formally replaces the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Susan exchanged glances with General Martinez, who sat beside her. Neither needed to speak. This moment represented everything they had fought. For 6 months earlier, after Captain Morgan's successful strikes against Council military installations, the Council had finally agreed to peace talks. They had little choice. Earth had demonstrated it could reach any Council world, disable their most powerful ships, and take control of their most secure facilities. But humans had offered mercy instead of destruction. They had disabled rather than destroyed. They had shown restraint when they could have shown vengeance. "We don't want to rule the galaxy," President Adams had told the Council leaders during those tense negotiations. "We just want to make sure no one rules us." Now, as the newly formed Galactic Assembly concluded its first official session, Susan reflected on how quickly things had changed. The old Council hierarchy had been dismantled. The Viridians no longer claimed special authority. The 17 founding species now shared power with 14 others, including 3 that had been classified as protected primitive species just a year ago. "Ambassador Wells," Trell said, approaching after the session ended. Your proposal for the Technology Exchange Commission received strong support. Susan nodded. It's in everyone's interest. No more hoarding of advances. No more using technology to control other species. Some of the older council members still struggle with this concept, Trell admitted. For thousands of years, controlling access to technology was how they maintained power. And look where that got them, Susan replied. Technological stagnation, political division, a system that was bound to collapse eventually. Trell's 4 eyes blinked in the pattern that Susan had learned indicated agreement. You humans broke more than their power. You broke their illusions. On Earth, the changes were equally dramatic. With council restrictions removed, humanity openly embraced its advanced technology. Cities were transformed. The environment healed. And with the knowledge gained from council databases, human scientists made breakthroughs that might otherwise have taken decades. Dr. Olivia Grant now headed the new Technological Exchange Commission, headquartered on Earth's moon. There, scientists from dozens of species worked together, sharing discoveries in an atmosphere of cooperation rather than competition. The quantum entanglement communication system has been successfully adapted for use by 15 species, she reported to the gathered researchers. By next month, that number should double. What had begun as a tool for Earth's resistance had become the foundation of a new galactic communication network, connecting worlds that had previously relied on council-controlled channels. In orbit around Earth, the former council station Hegemony of Light had been renamed Unity Station. It served as a diplomatic hub and cultural center where species from across the galaxy could meet as equals. Captain Morgan, now Admiral Morgan, commanded Earth's growing fleet. But these ships no longer hid in secret bases. They patrolled trade, routes, responded to distress calls, and carried diplomatic missions to distant worlds. The transition hasn't been without challenges, Morgan said during a briefing with Earth's Security Council. Several former Council enforcer species have refused to recognize the new assembly. We've had reports of piracy and isolated attacks. They'll adjust eventually, said Jack Peterson, who had helped to design the new galactic security network. They've lost their position of privilege. It takes time to accept that. Not all former council members resisted the changes. Many embraced the new order with surprising enthusiasm. Species that had chafed under Viridian dominance found in humans unlikely allies and champions. Ambassador Krathok, once the face of council authority on Earth, had undergone perhaps the most surprising transformation. After the council's defeat, he had requested permission to remain on Earth as an observer. I wish to understand what we misunderstood about humans, he had explained. Now, 1 year later, Krathok stood in the gardens outside the new Earth Embassy on Viridian Prime, speaking with General Martinez. My daughter begins her studies at your lunar academy next month, Krathok said. She is fascinated by human history. Martinez smiled. It's a popular subject these days. Everyone wants to understand how a supposedly primitive species managed to overthrow the galactic order. I believe I understand now, Krathok said, his blue skin reflecting the golden light of the Viridian sun. We thought technology was power. We thought age brought wisdom. We never considered that struggle breeds strength. Martinez considered this. Humans have never stopped struggling, never stopped fighting. Sometimes against nature, sometimes against each other, sometimes against our own limitations. It made us adaptable. The council had no concept of this, Krathok admitted. For thousands of years we faced no real challenges, no real threats. We believed this made us superior. In reality, it made us weak. The two stood in silence for a moment, former enemies now working toward a shared future. Later that evening, Susan attended a reception celebrating the formation of the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from all member species mingled in the Grand Hall. Some had been council rulers, others had been council subjects. Now they spoke as equals. A young Maraski approached Susan. Is it true that humans had already achieved faster-than-light travel before the council arrived? That you had been watching us for years? Susan smiled. No, that's just a rumor. We developed our technology in secret, but only after the council arrived. But how? The Muraski asked. How did you advance so quickly? Susan thought about the months of preparation, the years of hidden research, the centuries of human innovation. We did what humans have always done, she said. We looked at the problem in front of us. We imagined a solution, and then we worked until we made that solution real. Across the hall, she saw Dr. Grant speaking with a group of scientists, explaining a concept with animated gestures. Nearby, Captain Morgan discussed security protocols with former council military leaders. Jack Peterson demonstrated a new communication device to fascinated observers. Humans were everywhere in this new galactic community, not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as partners. They had earned their place not by destroying the old order, but by offering a better alternative. The council had believed they understood the universe and their place in it. Earth's revenge wasn't just defeating them, it was showing them how wrong they had been. Susan raised her glass in a silent toast to her fellow humans scattered throughout the stars. They had done more than win a war. They had changed a galaxy,